Welcome back to Inside the Ropes. I'm Gary Cassidy, and I'm joined by a man who used to have a very similar name to me, but he's a little bit taller. I'm not going to ask him how to be 7 feet tall because I know that you can't teach that. It's W Morrissey. First things first, it's absolutely great to see you back in the ring. Great to speak to you. I spoke to a couple of people last year, and they told me at that time, Big Cass is in the shape of his life. And I was like, well, I mean, he wasn't in bad shape before, but I can't wait to see what they mean by the shape of his life. I now know they weren't lying. So I need to ask you, what's the mindset of W Morrissey? You know, now that you're back looking better than ever, absolutely dominating so far in Impact, what is going through the mind of W Morrissey right now?
What's going through my mind is that I want to make it to the top of the wrestling industry. That's what I've always wanted to do, and I've had some setbacks, and I've even considered stepping away from wrestling. But at the root of it, deep down, you know, ever since I was a kid, this is all I've ever wanted to do. Is my first love and my first passion, and I want to be the best. So I'm going to do everything in my power to you know, get to the top of professional wrestling in the entire industry. And if I don't make it there, I'm going to die trying. But my goal is to make it to the absolute top of professional wrestling. And I don't know how long that's going to take, but every single day I'm grateful to wake up, and I'm going to give it my all every day to make a name for myself.
Absolutely love that answer. It looks like that's coming through in the ring anyway, so I can't wait to see how it goes. Now, this is where I need to address an elephant in the room, and either this is something you're going to be completely unaware of and you'll now think that, man, this guy is terrible, or you might be aware of it and I'll ask your reaction anyway. On the day that you made your Impact debut, I'd actually put out a report that you were going to be joining Impact shortly thereafter.
I'm aware.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, the first part of this is, what is your reaction when you see a report like that coming out? But the second part of that question would be the positivity that came out of that was everyone that responded, you know, both on a small scale to me, were excited. But then when it actually happened, everyone was over the moon and delighted to see you. So one, what's the reaction when you see a report like that come out? But two, what's the reaction when you see the love that's shared about you actually doing it?
Well, I'll answer the second question first. The second question, my reaction was, this is great. You know, I'm glad people are super happy to see me, and I'm going to, you know, make them proud, and I'm going to make them super excited tonight. And I'm going to, you know, really jump off the screen at them and give them a good moment for themselves during this pay-per-view with me coming back and dominating. And as for the first question, my first thought was, who's the stooge? Was it the guy that picked me up from the airport? Was it the person that was in the lobby at the hotel that saw me? Or was it somebody that was here at the building in the production meeting or saw the run sheet? That was honestly my first thought was, who's the stooge? Who said something? Because me and Scott kept that quiet for weeks. And then the morning that I showed up here, the report came out, and I said, somebody saw me or someone was at the building and heard. So who's the stooge? So that was my first thought. Who's the stooge?
The only thing that I absolutely loved is the fact that you debuted with a name that was so far away from Cassidy as humanly possible. So no one was like, that's like his little brother or his nephew or something that, that he's leaked the news to. But I can say that I had to get that out of the way, get my red face out of the way so we can continue with the interview without the elephant in the room.
Oh, good. You're just doing your job.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you see it that way. That's it. And I'm glad we're this far away, so I'm not getting hit with a big boot as well. That's always good. But I did mention the name there. You know, you've debuted with a slightly different name than what people are familiar with, but it is your name. I want to ask about the decision to change that name because, you know, obviously we've known you as Big Cass. We know why that changed to, you know, Cas XL. Why W Morrissey?
Because it's a fresh start in a new company, and you know, this is day one of a new journey for me. It's day one of me making it to the top of professional wrestling on my own with a healthy mindset, being sober and happy and healthy. And it was a brand new start. And I didn't want anything associated with what I used to do or who I used to be getting in the way of this new journey. So anything that I used to do went out the window, including gear, the look, everything. And I wanted a fresh start. So, and I thought coming back as a heel, there's no it's just using when Scott Hall and Kevin Nash showed up at WCW, I thought that was really cool using their real names. But for a heel, just having me abbreviate my first name instead of saying it, I thought that was pretty arrogant. So the day of is when we decided that we were going to be W Morrissey instead.
Man, I love that. And you mentioned a name there that I was going to bring up a little bit later, but I feel like I should do it now. Kevin Nash. That's a comparison a lot of people have made, and man, it's not a bad comparison for people to make. You know, one of the greatest big men in wrestling ever, one of the best businessmen in wrestling ever. Is that someone that you deliberately model yourself on, or is it just, you know, a coincidence and you're like, I'm being compared to another big guy. Why am I being compared to this big guy? Is there actually an inspiration there?
Yeah, that's someone that I definitely watched a lot of and I've talked to a lot and gotten advice from. So Kevin Nash being a comparison of mine is fantastic. I take that as a huge compliment. And yeah, it's not a coincidence. It's definitely someone I mold my game after quite a bit. So Kevin Nash me being compared to Kevin Nash, that's a huge compliment. And it's kind of what I would have hoped, yes.
Definitely. It's obvious to see the comparison. If you go on to have half the career that Kevin Nash has, no one would ever complain about that. Any wrestler in their right mind would take that.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I always like to say that, you know, when you report on something, you like to pretend you know absolutely everything about what went on and how it happened. Obviously, I mentioned that you were going to turn up, but I've got no idea how it actually came to fruition. You know, I know that you're quite good friends with the Good Brothers. You'd wrestled at Lariato Pro and stuff before that. Were they instrumental in getting you an Impact? Was there someone else that was there? Was it Scott D'Amore? How did the Impact thing come about?
Yeah, I worked the Lariato Pro show where I came back for Gallows. And then the next time I went to Lariato Pro, Scott D'Amore was doing a training session there and actually scouting talent earlier in the day. So he was hanging around the show and I got a chance to talk to him. And he saw that I was, you know, healthy and in a good place mentally and obviously in really great shape. And you know, I had a more of a professional mindset coming back to wrestling, just treating it like, let's do good business. Let's make money together. And I guess after that conversation, we stayed in touch. And that's when we started talking about me actually coming here.
Definitely. And at that show and, you know, in a few other dates, you were working with someone else who is a pretty big name. I loved the pairing, Melina. How was that partnership? And is she someone you'd like to see an Impact? And would you be pitching to have her alongside you if she was to join?
Well, right now in Impact, I'm happy being on my own. I want to make a name for myself. I want to show what I can do. You know, I don't need a mouthpiece. I know people have thought for a long time that I need a mouthpiece, but people, if they go back and look at my body of work and where I used to be and seen some promos that I cut, you know, I don't need a freaking mouthpiece. So I want to do things on my own here and show the world what I can do and show them how talented I am. But being an SWE and having Melina by my side, it's been fantastic. She's amazing. She's a great, you know, compliment to me. I'm a great compliment to her. And yeah, she, you know, it's the guys out there, Kevin Sullivan and Teddy Long and the promoter out there, Tom, you know, they asked me if I would want to do that. And they pitched that idea to me before I came out. I said, hell yeah. Melina's dope. So that's what we've been doing out there in the Dallas area for SWE.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And it's nice to see the difference as well, because like you said, you don't need a mouthpiece. Everyone knows that you've got promo ability. They're seeing it very much so in Impact. I want to move a little bit away from the ring and ask you about someone in particular. You mentioned, you know, getting back into shape, getting in the best shape of your life. A man, one of the two men that told me you were in the shape of your life is someone who I think has helped you a little bit in terms of getting there. And I think he does outstanding work. It's Diamond Dallas Page. You know, obviously, you know him very well. I just want to ask, I don't think he would want to take credit because he always says, you know, you need to put the work in. You need to be the person that works for you. But, you know, what credit does Diamond Dallas Page take in W Morrissey being the W Morrissey he is today?
I think he was a big catalyst in me starting to open up about where I was at mentally and my addiction. And that's something that I hid for a really long time because I was embarrassed and there's a stigma that comes with it. And, you know, I didn't want to people to make fun of me or look down on me because, you know, I was having mental health issues or because of my alcoholism. So I hid that for a while. And he was somebody that told me to just be honest and open about it. And that's kind of how I approach life now is I'm always honest. In any of these interviews, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be very transparent. You could ask me anything and I'm going to be super honest with you because I got nothing to hide. Unlike a lot of other people in the wrestling industry, I'm not going to hide anything anymore because that's not good for me mentally to play a part and to act and to wear a mask and be somebody that I'm not. So, you know, he was the one that told me to be honest and open about it. We put a video out and that actually lifted a huge weight off of me. So going forward, always being honest, that's where I started being honest with fans, with other people in the industry, with anybody that knew me. He kind of helped me to open up about that. And that was probably the beginning of me becoming a different person, starting to live a different life, probably is that honesty. And that's something that's preached in recovery is honesty. So, you know, I could get into the physical aspect of things, but I think the mental aspect of things is a lot bigger. So when I started being honest is when, you know, things started changing for me. You know, I definitely had some downfalls after, but I vow to just be honest going forward because I don't want to lie, and living a lie is what causes me anxiety and stress and puts me in a bad mindset.
Yeah, I have to say that, you know, I've been doing DDPY myself and seeing that video, it was inspirational. It was absolutely incredible. And I just love the guy's work. And I loved seeing, you know, the shape that you got into and the full message as well. You know, your t-shirt with the 12 steps was absolutely incredible. I want to ask about a couple of things that are, you know, not quite about W Morrissey and then go back to W Morrissey, things that you've witnessed. So I think I read it that for this moment, you'd said something about it being the biggest pop in WrestleMania history. Two Impact legends, Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy coming back. You're in the ring and you whisper something. Is that what you said or something along the lines of biggest pop? And what was it like just seeing that moment and being in the ring for that moment?
Pretty sure I said something along the lines, did you hear that motherfucking pop? That was fucking crazy. But yeah, being in the ring, like there was speculation, but really the 6 people in the ring, you know, and a few people backstage were the only people that knew what was about to happen. And like, while we were all in the ring, all 6 of us with the belt above us circling each other, we all knew what was about to happen. And it was a pretty cool feeling because we were excited and anticipating what was about to happen because we knew how the fans were going to react. So that moment right before the New Day came out was super, it was really tense, but really exciting. And it was cool to be in there with those 5 other guys.
Yeah, definitely. And then before we go back to W Morrissey, the one other thing that I want to ask, it's not really about you, but I mean, it needs your insight to know exactly what the answer to this would be. You have been in the ring with lots of legends. You've been in the locker room with lots of legends. You know, you've wrestled Daniel Bryan, MVP, all these names. You've been, you know, Eric Young's an Impact. You've got all these legends. You've shared the locker room with them. What's the most surreal experience you've had in wrestling so far with a legendary name that you've been like, man, that blew me away?
Doing Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast 3 days before Enzo and I debuted on Raw. We did a sit down in his hotel room in Dallas, the WrestleMania hotel. That was surreal because like that's who I looked up to growing up. And you try not to mark out. You want to play it cool, and I did play it cool. I think I did a good job. But inside, I was like, this is Stone Cold Steve Austin sitting at the same table as me right now, interviewing me for his podcast. That was surreal. That was absolutely surreal.
I don't think there's any arguing with that because I'm not sure there's anyone in the planet who wouldn't be in that situation around Stone Cold Steve Austin. So yeah. 2 final questions, going back to W Morrissey. I always like to get it from the horse's mouth. I've seen reports. Are you a fully fledged Impact talent? Or are you there for the long haul?
I'm here right now. That's really all I can say. You know, I'm grateful to wake up every day. So, you know, I'm grateful to be alive. So I have to live one day at a time. I can't future trip, man, because in recovery, if you start tripping, that spells there. So, but in terms of real long term and looking too far down the line and where am I going to end up, I can't worry about that. But for right now, I'm in Impact. I love being in Impact. And I'm going to tell you, I'll be here today, tomorrow, and probably, a few weeks from now. So, but as far as super long term, there's nothing really long term set right now.
Excellent. I'm not going to ask you to look too far in the future for the last question then. Impact, you've had a few amazing matches so far. I mean, the Willie Mack one was absolutely outstanding. And then Rich Swann obviously comes back. Who in Impact is W Morrissey's dream match? Who is the one person that you're like, Scott D'Amore gives you the book right now, says, write down the match you want at Slammiversary. If you're still here at Slammiversary, what's the match you want?
Well, it would have been Kenny Omega, because I want to work with the best, and he's one of the best in the world right now, and he's at the top of the wrestling industry. I would love to work with Kenny Omega. I'd love to wrestle him for the Impact World title, and that's still something I want to do. But I'd also want to get my hands on Rich Swann, because to be honest with you, very pissed off at him. And there's a few people here that I really want to. Moose is another guy that I really want to wrestle. But yeah, I mean, if I had to write one down, it has to be Kenny Omega. I want a match with one of the best in the world, guy at the top of the industry, carrying every freaking belt there is, guys just dripping with gold. Yeah, that's the guy. That's the match that I want is Kenny Omega. And if it doesn't happen at Slammiversary, hopefully it happens somewhere down the line.
Fingers crossed, man. That's a match I want to see, but I can't wait to see what you do. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and for being so open with your answers. Really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you, bro.